Yes, Emma, yes. Sends goods and services to another country. Good, you're exporting. Remember we talked about yep, send goods. Good. Yes, export. They're exiting the country. So, yes, this was learned on Friday. So, just as an example and a refresher for maybe of those of you who were not here, if Grace had timber in her country and Callie has obsidian in her country, and they both want to make a swap, Grace would export her timber to Callie, and Callie would then import that timber, but she would need to export her obsidian. So for Grace, Grace would import obsidian because it's coming into her country from Callie, and then she would export timber because it's exiting her country. Okay, so imports and exports, they're coming in and they're going out of your country. So these terms are super important because they are what make trade trade. Remember, we talked about how trade is a fair agreement between two groups, okay? So they rely on this. If I want something of yours and you want something of mine, then we can make a little trade. And remember, if we start snatching up other people's goods, that causes war, which is not good. So, trade, it's important that you're making an agreement. Okay, so imports and exports. You're importing goods into your country or exporting goods out of your country that someone else wants. Okay, so very important that you know these things. This is a good economics principle too. And just as a reminder, we talked about, remember, the 5 legs or the 5 aspects of social studies. And one of those aspects is economics, okay? One of those is economics. We have to understand economics in order to understand history. And trade is one of those economic principles that we need to understand. Which is why I love social studies so much, because you get 5 subjects in one. So it's so exciting. All right, so we're going to move forward. Now, remember on Friday, yeah, okay. On Friday, we started talking about the characteristics of civilizations, okay? So, remember, just as a refresher, I probably said it 100 times, but it helps. We're moving from nomadic bands to a settled society, okay? We're moving to a settled society. Now, we didn't just go from nomads to civilizations, okay? A civilization is a huge, complex society with all the characteristics that we're about to go over. But before civilizations occurred, we had just what we call complex societies, okay? So this is when they're starting to get more advanced. They're starting to come up with different ways of life, and it's starting to look more like how we live today, okay? We're going to see that through history. We're going to see this transition, this slow process to how we got here today. Now, before I continue forward, I just want to go over this week with you so that you kind of know what to expect. Your test, your Unit 1 test is going to be on Friday, okay? So, don't fret, because on Wednesday we will be working on a study guide to help you prepare yourself for this test. And I know tests, you're like, but it's gonna be good. And for tests, just to go over my policy, you will have 2 attempts on a test. So you get 3 attempts on a quiz, but only 2 on a test. So make sure that you're prepared. It's gonna be great. It is all multiple choice, matching, and true and false. So hooray, hooray, hooray for no essays on your test, okay? So it'll be great. You guys will do awesome. Emma, which definition? Which? Oh, the characteristics. We're about to go over those right now, so I'm glad you asked. Okay, so here we go. Just as a recap from Friday, because I don't know about you guys, but Friday seemed like a really long time ago. Like a really long time ago. Okay, so first of all, we talked about Okay. I looked up a better not definition, a better pronunciation of this place. You actually pronounce it Çatalhöyük. Because apparently this makes a CH sound. Don't know how that makes sense, but Çatalhöyük. So remember, we talked about Çatalhöyük. This is one of the earliest settlements that we know of, and remember we talked about a little bit how they live. Now, before we move on into the characteristics, I found some videos that I feel like would be helpful for you to see how these people lived. Okay, we're gonna watch two videos. The first is a thrilling production about how people made mud bricks. Okay. So it's thrilling, and the lady on it is British. She has a really soothing voice. It's only 2 minutes. But in this video, she's going to talk about the civilization of Mesopotamia. Okay, she's going to talk about that. But it's important to keep in mind that before Mesopotamia, okay, these people also used mud bricks. Okay, remember how we talked about how these homes are made out of mud? So this is what this is going to talk about, that and how they made it. Okay, and she's also going to show an early invention of the Mesopotamians on how they made bricks. I find it fascinating. And if we were all together, we would so make mud together, but we're not. So we're gonna watch other people make mud. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing so I can get this right. And let me go over here. This is the worst part, having to shift from thing to thing. Okay. Ah. Okay. Share, here we go. And Shazam! Here she comes. Wait. Hello? British lady. Oh, there she is. Okay, here we go. How to make mud 101. Okay, so notice that she talked a little bit about how not only did they use the mud for building, they also used the mud to farm with. It was rich with nutrients, okay? And it's really interesting because those people, when they were making the mud, they poured grass into it, so you had like a mixture of dirt, water, and grass to make it like thicker. And they also squish it with their feet. They didn't have egg beaters or anything like that, so they just used their feet. Okay, so we're going to watch one more video because this will show you when I showed you those pictures of Çatalhöyük, this will show you a little bit more as to how they lived. Okay, so this video, it's 6 minutes, but it does a really thorough job at showing you how they lived. Remember, we talked about how they didn't have doors on their homes. They came through their houses from the roof. They would climb up onto the roof and then climb down into their houses. So really interesting. All right, so I'm gonna show you that one. These are all things that I thought of after class on Friday that I was like, we should go over that. Okay. 1 second. Struggling. Okay. Here we go.
So, not too far from the Turkish city of Konya lies one of the world's oldest known settlements. It's actually a relatively recent discovery, a Neolithic town that in Turkish is known as Çatalhöyük. What the original name of the settlement was is anybody's guess, as it was quite long ago, 10,000 years ago, and no writing that may be able to describe the settlement has to this day been found there. It's just so old, but also quite sophisticated. In fact, many until its discovery didn't think that humans could have lived in such an organized way so many thousands of years ago. So, +1 for our ancestors. Çatalhöyük was excavated over several years, pretty much from its discovery in 1958 to 1964 by a team of archaeologists led by James Mellor, himself from the UK. Excavation stopped for a while due to some sort of scandal Mellor was involved in, but resumed again in the early 1990s. Since its excavation, Çatalhöyük has become one of the most famous archaeological sites in the world, due to its age, sheer size, and the amazing artwork found there in the form of wall paintings and what are presumed to be religious objects. Now, after the discovery of Çatalhöyük, several similar villages from around the same time period have also been found in other parts of the world, proving that the growth of such communities were not isolated incidents. What these settlements demonstrate is the shift from hunter-gathering to a more sedentary agricultural lifestyle. Think about it. If you were moving around a lot in search of food, then why would you go through all the trouble of making permanent settlements like Çatalhöyük? I mean, that's a lot of work, especially if you're not planning on living in that area for too long. Such settlements all started what we call the Neolithic Revolution, which took place in many parts of the world between the years 10,000 to 7,000 BCE. The Neolithic Revolution is that transitional phase when our ancestors made the move from foraging to farming. Çatalhöyük is just one example of a community that over several hundred years was in the process of making that transition. Archaeologists have been able to see through the ages how the size of the settlement expanded, probably averaging a population of 5,000 people, although during some generations this number may have gone up to 10,000 people. In either case, these villages must have spent considerable time and effort in planting and cultivating various crops, as well as storing any surpluses for use during winter or non-harvesting months. So, how did these people live? Well, housing-wise, the people of Çatalhöyük lived in dwellings that were clustered together in a sort of honeycomb-like maze. They were so tightly packed together that there were few, if any, streets. To get inside these houses or dwellings, one would have to enter through holes in the ceiling, and then use a ladder to go down, or up if you were leaving. These openings were also the main source of ventilation for each house. In a sense, the rooftops of the houses were the streets. Inside the house was a basic kitchen area where a small fire could be built, as well as sleeping quarters and in a few cases, rooms for storage. Now the fire could also have been used during cold weather for heat. The smoke from the fire would exit through the hole in the ceiling, which along with being a point of entry and exit, acted like a chimney. As you can probably imagine, the place was a bit crowded. However, it definitely beat living in a tent, especially when the weather was bad outside. What's also interesting is that the people of Çatalhöyük had their own sanitation system. Apparently, they kept their houses very clean, but outside of town, archaeologists found what they could only determine to be trash heaps for garbage. You know what else is really interesting about the people of Çatalhöyük? They seem to have had a relatively egalitarian culture, meaning that there were no social classes or hierarchies, at least none that can be determined. This conclusion has been made because all of the houses, the hundreds of them that they've unearthed, are more or less the same. Basically, there was no palace for any chieftain or king, no special quarters for any type of priests or those with special status. This doesn't mean that high status people didn't exist, but if they did, then they weren't awarded any special privileges in terms of better housing. As far as we can tell, the daily diet of these people consisted of wheat, barley, lentils, peas, and other legumes. They also herded sheep and goats, and, given much of their artwork, cattle as well. Now, one of the really cool things about farming is that it can free up time for many people. When you can't, or don't have to constantly be searching for or growing food because you have surpluses stored away, you actually have time to think about the meaning of life or come up with hobbies, such as painting or sculpture. Now, without writing, it's hard to really know what their religious beliefs entailed, but from the many female figurines that have been found, it seems that they worshipped some type of goddess, or maybe goddesses. There may have also been male deities, and perhaps even spirits of animals whom they worshipped. But statues and figurines of females definitely outnumber the latter two, and it's believed that these statues were used for worship or that they represented divine beings. Many heads of bulls were also mounted on walls, leading some to believe that these could have been objects of worship as well. Either that, or they were hunting trophies. We'll probably never know for sure. Anyway, that was a quick look at Çatalhöyük, one of the oldest settlement communities to have been discovered so far. Thanks so much for stopping.
You're muted.
As I was saying, that video was a little bit longer, but he does a really good job of giving you an overview of how these people lived. Notice that we're not quite to the point where we're at civilizations, okay? So they didn't have writing, they didn't have laws that we know of. They didn't have a hierarchy, so there were no kings or priests or anything like that that we know of. But we're getting more complex, right? We have permanent dwellings, their decor, they would put animals' heads on their walls. I don't know if any of you have, if your dads have put a deer on the wall or something. Okay, so they would decorate, paint, things like that. So really interesting. And something that he mentioned that we really haven't talked a lot about yet is religion, because we really haven't seen a lot of religion or evidence that there was religion until we got to the city when we start digging up statues, okay? So really, really cool. It's almost hard to fathom that people lived this long ago. I mean, these are the things that keep me up at night, are thinking about these people. All right, so now we're going to continue forward. I wanted to show you all that because, oh, darn it. 1 second. I need to switch over here. But one of the reasons I wanted to show you how they built mud and how they lived is because I want you to see this process. History is all about the process, right, of how we got to where we are. All right. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go through the entire PowerPoint to get where I am today. Ding, 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 ding. That's my, Okay, there we go. Okay, we already talked about that. So, just as a review, remember on Friday we talked about the city of Ur. And the city of Ur, excuse me, is an example of a city-state. Just as a reminder of what a city-state is, to be simple, it is a city with an area around it, okay? It's a city with an area around it. We also talked about a complex society. So a complex society is you have a reliable food source. And when I say reliable, I mean that you know where your food is coming from and you don't have to worry so much about it, okay? So remember, because we have a food surplus, people are feeling good. They can get up in the morning and have their cereal. It's not really, they didn't have cereal. I don't know, maybe they had toast. They could cook it on their roof, right? I don't know. It's hot enough. Okay, and so they had a reliable food source. They had laws, customs, jobs, all that good stuff. Okay, and remember I showed you this picture of a city-state. You have the city center in the middle, and then you had your houses. This is the city of Ur, what I'm showing you right now. It's a city-state within the Mesopotamia civilization. Because remember, civilizations are made up of a bunch of city-states, okay? So Çatalhöyük, what we just looked at, that's not a city-state. That's just a settlement, okay? It was too small, and it wasn't as complex as a city-state. So this is just an example. We're just reviewing. This is the review wagon, okay? And then remember, I showed you a picture of Ur, what it looks like today. We're still excavating it, still finding things, all good things. Okay, now these are the characteristics of a civilization. We got through 4 of them. So just as a reminder, and if you don't have these written down, I urge you to write them down because these will be something to think about on the test. Wink, wink, nudge. That was a terrible wink. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Okay. So, all right. Number 1, remember we have excess food. This is the foundation of all civilization. If you have excess food, you now have some more time to think about other things, to be more innovative, and all that good stuff. You're not worrying about where your next meal is coming from. And because you have excess food, you can have the development of cities, okay? So now we start to see cities pop up where they have their farmlands out there. Some people are farmers, but not everybody has to be a farmer because you have extra food, which means that you can have different jobs, okay? So you can be something else. You can be a government official, you can be a priest, you can be a merchant, you can be a weaver, you can be a metal worker. You don't have to be a farmer, so people can live out their dreams. Their little Mesopotamian dreams, okay? So they can live out their dreams of what they want to be. All right, so specialized labor. And then this is the last one we got to on Friday, which was trade. And remember, we went over this on our bell ringer. These people started to trade, which makes their city more complex because they're able to trade with other areas for items that they don't have. So, for example, like the city of did not have a lot of timber, so they might trade with another area that has timber in exchange for something else. So remember, imports, they're goods brought from other places. Exports, you're trading some of your own stuff. It's exiting the country. Okay, now we're up to speed with where we are today. The last few characteristics. Now this is labor hierarchy, okay? And the reason I show you this is because this is an issue for a long time, okay? And we start to see it in this time period. This is where it's kind of born, okay, in the civilizations. Now, labor hierarchy simply means that people believe that some jobs are more important than other jobs. Is that true? No, because we need all jobs in order to function as a society. But this is what they decided. It caused a lot of problems later. But anyway, we see it all across the board, okay? We see it in Egypt. We see it in India. We see it in Africa. We see it everywhere, okay? So, here is an example of an Egyptian hierarchy. I was just showing you what one would look like. We see that we have the farmers and the slaves at the bottom, okay? They're like the bottom, the low man on the totem pole, okay? Slaves obviously get paid nothing. Farmers make very little as well. They're the least important. Again, is that true? No, but this is what they believed, okay? So then you have craftsmen. These are like your metal workers, your sculptors, you can see your artisans. He's sculpting a statue. She's making a blanket. She's looming or weaving. And then you have merchants. Okay, these are the people who are trading with other nations. They are responsible for making sure that the society has the items that they need, so they're trading with other people. Then you have scribes. These are like your intellectuals, okay? They're the ones who are writing, which we're going to talk about in just a second, okay? They're like your historians. They're very educated in that they know how to write. They know how to write down their spoken language. And then you have your soldiers, okay? Your soldiers are pretty high up there. And then your government officials, your nobles, your priests, these are your religious. Remember, religion and government were kind of intertwined, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then up top is your pharaoh, okay? And this is the same across the board. A pharaoh, a king, an emperor, whoever was top dog is obviously at the top of the pyramid, okay? So this is an example of a labor hierarchy, and essentially they in society had it to where certain people were more respected than other people, okay? Causes a lot of issues later, but we'll get into that. You're going to see that theme. Okay, number 6 is a centralized government. This is Greece, okay, later. But we start to see that these civilizations take it a step further. They have a government. Now, most of the governments were monarchies, meaning that they had a king of some sort. They had a king, and then they had the people under them were typically like nobles and priests, and they made laws, and it was they had to make laws because now everybody's really tightly close together and the population's growing and you have crime and you have to set rules so nobody steals your cow and all that good stuff. So they had to have these laws. So centralized government, super important characteristic of a civilization. Number 7. Okay, we have a little thing called patriarchy. This is a very controversial topic in that we see, starting with these cities, we start to see a rise in inequality, okay? So all of a sudden, instead of men and women, being like equal in what they're doing, we have the rise of patriarchy where it is a male dominant society, okay? A male dominant society. Now, this causes problems because women start to lose their rights. They're not looked at as important as men, and it does cause a lot of problems. So we start to see that the people who are ruling, they're all men. Certain jobs are for men and certain jobs are for women. So we see this divide. Okay, we see this divide. And this comes about with civilizations. Now, obviously, throughout time, once we get to the 1900s, women are fighting for their rights and all that good stuff. But this, just all you need to know is that the rise of civilizations created a divide amongst the roles of men and women, okay? And then we see religion, okay? Religion. So we
I just realized that Sarah's background looks sort of like the pictures.
Sarah's background looks like pictures. Wait, hold on. You guys are like tiny on my screen. Yes, Sarah, you look like you're on vacation. Ah,
I'm in my backyard.
well, it looks beautiful back there.
A lime tree.
We should take a field trip to Sarah's backyard because it looks amazing. All right, so religion. Remember I talked about how religion and the government start to be intertwined here. This is called a ziggurat. That's a fun word. You can say that to your mom or dad. A ziggurat. Okay, so a ziggurat it literally means a high dwelling or a high place, okay? And it was it was basically their temple, their place of worship, where they could build pretty high to get closer to the heavens, okay? So it's gonna be your highest point in a city. So if you see something sticking out of your city, it's probably a ziggurat. This ziggurat on the left side is from the city of Ur, and it's big and it's 5,000 years old, okay? And you can see it doesn't look typical of like the other. This one is like what you would think about when you think about like an ancient temple. You see the step. We call these they're called step pyramids. This one looks a little more funky. It was like one of the earliest designs, right? But anyway, religion plays a huge role in civilizations. We're going to talk more about things that different civilizations believed. And like in that video, all of a sudden they have more time on their hands because not everybody is a farmer. So they're starting to contemplate life, and the meaning of it. And they're starting to come up with ideas of what they believe. And it's going to be different across the board. But we do see a regular theme of either a monotheistic civilization where they believe in one god or a polytheistic civilization where they believe in multiple gods. So religion, and yes, in this time period, religion and politics are all tangled up, okay? So if you were the king, you were also a religious leader. You were both, okay? It was like one and the same. So really, really important because religion plays a huge factor in everything for the rest of history, okay? So really important. And then we have one more. And the last characteristic we are talking about is that of writing. Okay, so hip hip hooray! We are moving from prehistory into history, okay? We're moving into history because remember the definition of history is written records, okay? So we're talking about the time after writing is invented. And here's an example of the first writing system called cuneiform, okay? It's a series of pictograms, the little pictures that represent words. It kind of looks crazy to us because, you know, like we use words with letters, but they use pictograms. Okay, and this was used in Mesopotamia. We're going to talk about it a little later. But you see the emergence of writing. Wonderful. Now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because that's the end of my PowerPoint. What we're going to do for the next 20 minutes is we are going to do a little web quest, okay? It's going to be so exciting. So what you're going to do is you are going to go under Module 1. Now, listen to what I'm saying, because if you don't listen to what I'm saying, you might be lost. Your computers do not support Adobe Flash Player. And so we need to change it so that they do. So, I need somebody who has Canvas readily available to share their screen. Somebody raise their hand so I can.
I can do it.
Okay, Sarah, go ahead and share your screen because everybody, I'm going to show you how to get to the virtual, or it's the web quest.
Okay.
So share your screen.
share my screen.
Are you on
Let me get back
Canvas?
to. Okay, hold up. Sorry, it's being a little laggy.
So while she's doing that,
Share
everybody
content.
else should be on Canvas following along so that you all do this at the same time. Otherwise, it's going to say that you're blocked.
Is it
Okay, it's sharing now.
okay?
Hold on, we don't see it yet. Okay, go to social studies. So everybody is doing this. You have a lot of classes on there. Okay. And then the very last thing under Module 1, so scroll all the way down. The very last thing. Okay, it says Ancient it says Ancient Civilizations Web Quest. You're going to click on that. And then open Ancient Civilizations Web Quest in a new window. Here is where it gets exciting, okay?
Like this?
Okay, so it says click to enable. Oh wait, yours is already like set up. Okay, press allow. So if yours says click to enable Adobe Flash, then click allow, and then it'll let you in. Okay, so there's Sarah's. So now she's in. Okay, Sarah, go ahead.
I stop sharing?
Yeah, you go ahead and stop sharing. So Sarah's in. Now, not all of yours is going to say that, okay?
Mine doesn't say it.
Who said that, Rafe? Does yours say
Yeah,
you're blocked?
Yeah, but
Okay.
it doesn't say like.
Yeah, I know. That's my second part. So Rafe, can you share your screen? Oh, you're on mute, Rafe. Yeah, we're going over that in just a second. Sarah, yours was like... Okay, Rafe, go ahead and share your screen.
I think it's this one. I clicked it.
Oh, perfect. Okay, everyone, this is...
Oh, hi.
Sarah, yours was special. Okay, so if yours says Adobe Flash Player is blocked, then you're going to go up to the top. You're going to go up to the top right-hand corner. And right next to... See that? Yep, right next to the star, you're going to click on the puzzle piece. Okay, it's next to the star. And click on Manage.
I'm going to have to move...
there you go. Now click on Manage.
It shows like a box of your face, but like
our heads are in the way. Is that what you're telling me? Our heads are in the way?
Yes.
You can just drag our heads over.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, just drag us over. Okay, now you can get
and
to it.
then manage.
Yep, click on Manage, and then you get to the settings.
Over there.
Okay, so now you're on settings, and you're gonna click. You see there it says block sites from running. You're gonna click the switch. You're gonna turn it on. Nope. See that? You're gonna
This
you're gonna turn it on.
click.
Okay,
This.
now go back to your web quest.
This thing I'm pretty sure.
Yep. And then
To
you can
enable.
click to enable and
And
press
then
allow.
allow.
Yep.
Oh.
Okay, so now go ahead and stop sharing, Rafe. Thank you for
I don't
sharing
know
your screen.
how.
Go to
I
the top.
really don't know.
Go to the top of your screen, and there's a drop
And
down.
then this stop button.
Yep.
Stop. Stop. Stop
There
sharing.
you go. All right, so that's how you enable Adobe Flash. So from now on, when we have Adobe Flash, your computer you'll be able to allow it. Okay, so now what you're going to do with this web quest is there are 6 categories on there. And actually, I'm going to share my screen with the web quest on it. There are 6 categories on there, and you are going to find evidence of those characteristics in real civilizations, okay? So you're going to find evidence. Now let me share so that you can see it. Except I didn't do it for, hold on, I want to do it for text and images. Oh, it is on that. Okay, so here is the web quest. So you see you have 6 themes. You are going to click on one theme at a time, and then it's going to show you like the map of the world, and it's going to show you different civilizations. Now, it will have a timeline at the bottom, so you can scroll it back and forth, and the timeline shows you when different civilizations popped up. But we are in the year 3500 BC, so this is where you should be, at the very beginning of time. So right now I'm in the theme of cities, so I would click on the Indus Valley, and I would write down an example of the characteristics of the civilization. And you're going to do one example from each theme. So that means you should have 6 examples. See, they're right here. Cities, buildings, writing, trade, technology, and religion. Okay, so you need to have one example from each. Now, what is an example, you might ask? Well, let me show you. Okay, so I'll pull up my PowerPoint. An example would be, ugh, where did you guys go? There you are. Sometimes I lose you guys on my screen. An example of a character like evidence would be like this. For an example in writing, the people in Mesopotamia used a writing system called cuneiform. It consists of pictograms used to represent real things. That's an example from writing. Okay, you need one example for each characteristic. Okay, we're finding evidence of how they used all of these things in their civilizations. You need to be in the year 3500 BC. Okay, 3500 BC. Okay, Lainey, can you share your screen? Okay, so remember, go up to the top, and then you see, yep, there you go, and manage. And then see that block sites, you're gonna click on that. See the block sites from running? Okay, go to the right, and there's a switch. Yeah, turn that on. So remember, BC stands for before Christ. So before year 0. Okay, now it should work, Lainey. Oh, 3500. Yes, you're starting. So remember, you need 6 examples, 1 from each theme. Lainey, you have to click on the puzzle piece in the center and then click allow. Hold on. And yes, you can use any civilization that's on the map from 3500 BC. So that'll be Mesopotamia or the Indus Valley or China.
Miss Tracy,
Yes.
I don't understand. I don't understand which one to do. There's too many ones to click on.
So there's 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you're doing one example from each of them.
I don't know how to do the examples.
You're just clicking on it. I gave you an example right here.
What do you mean
See?
example?
Sorry?
What do you mean example?
So if everyone looks on the screen, I literally put an example of an example. So you would click on a city. Now let me go through it. So you click on a
Where would you
city,
find the city?
and you're just writing 2 examples about how they had cities or how they used religion. You can click any city.
Where would you find the city?
It's on the map.
Okay.
See how they're just on the map?
Uh, I think
It says
so.
like,
So the A to Z cultures, that thing.
no, don't you see the map?
Here, I'll close it and retry.